All right, we got our accordion elements created and formatted. So now we're just going to go ahead and do our JavaScript. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it after this last bracket here and start writing it. So the way that we're going to do this is we're actually going to grab. We need to store all of our classes, that all of our buttons here into a variable, and then from there we can work on it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a variable, and I'm just going to call it ACC BTN for accordion button, and then we're just going to do that whole document dot get element by class name. So we're not doing it by ID this time, so we're going to get them by class name, and we want all elements named accordion BTN. Okay, and oops, that's good. So what this is going to do is going to be a little bit different than the other object. This is actually it's going to be what we call an array, because if you think about it, get elements by class name. I think I said get element, but it's get elements by class name. So it's actually storing, because there are multiple buttons, right? So storing all of them into this one object. So it's going to be like an object of objects. That's what we just did. So we stored them into this variable that actually is holding multiple objects. We're going to make another variable just called I. We're not going to give it any value. You'll see why we're going to do that in a second. So the way we're going to do this is in order to handle all of these accordion buttons that are in this object, we're going to run what's called a for loop. And so the for loop, what it does is it's just going to say for however long, however many times you want this loop to loop, it's going to loop the loop until that amount of time is satisfied. Okay, and we're going to run it the number of times that there are buttons inside of this button object. Okay, so you're going to do for, and then we're going to do I equals 0. Okay, so that's going to be our counter. So the I we're going to set to 0. So it's going to start off at 0. Then the next part is the how long it should run until. So it's going to be, so while I is less than the ACC BTN dot length. Okay, and then every time you run the loop, increment, add 1. Okay, so what we're saying is start with I being equal to 0. Then we want while I, let's go ahead and put spaces on this, just while I is less than the total length of this button. So length, so again, it's a property of this object. So length, it just means the number of things in it. So in this case, its length is going to be 3, because there's 3 accordion buttons. But if we had 4 or 5 or 6, that would make this number different, right? So right now, this is representing 3. Okay, as opposed to if we had 12, then this would represent 12. So this is going to run however many times we have these accordion buttons in here. And then every time it loops, plus plus is increment, which means it'll add 1 to I. If we did minus minus, it would be subtracting 1. But you could just do this, plus 1. It's the same thing as doing that, but plus plus is like what? Oops, not that. Plus plus is just how they do that. So basically, this loop is going to run for every one of those. So this is how we're handling. Where here we only had to do, we did it on one specific thing. This is going to handle all of them for us. Okay, that's what that's doing. Okay, so now inside of those, inside of the braces, what we want it to do is this. We want to go to ACC BTN brackets I. Okay, or square brackets I. So what this is doing is saying, so when you put braces, what it means is that in the position, in this case, the first time it's going to be position 0. When you do an array, it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, right? So when I said this is 3, it actually isn't 3, it's 2, because it's 0, 1, 2. Anyway, I think, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, the way that they are positioned is, so it starts at 0, blah, 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 blah. So the first one here, right, this very first one, that's going to be 0. This one would be 1, and this one would be 2. So all we're doing is just saying, okay, whatever, when this is running the first time, I is equal to 0. So we're going to say position 0. So the first one, this is what we're going to be doing something to it. Okay. And you may have guessed we're going to add an event listener. So we're going to add event listener. And you may have guessed this as well. We want to listen for a click. And then we want to run a function. We want an event handler. Now this is where it's a little bit different. What we're going to do is that normally when we did this before, which I guess we could have done it that way. When I did this before, though, what we did is I had this button here, and then I put read more function, and then I wrote the function as a separate thing. What we're actually going to do is actually write the function inside of this. So this is actually going to go down here. So it's like one big long thing. So we're actually going to put the function inside the event handler itself, which is kind of weird. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to do function, and then there's no information there. And I don't have to give it a name because it's just going to run this function. So there's no name necessary for it because I'm not calling a function. Where here it calls the function, it says run this thing, and then I put it right underneath it, and then it's like, okay, this is the thing. So it needs a name. But here I'm actually just putting it right inside of it, so it's just going to run. When it's clicked, it's going to run what's inside of here. In this case, it's just the function, so it's going to run the function. It doesn't have to be called like outside of it. Anywho, so now we just need to make that function, give it the braces, and then inside of that, we're going to do this dot class list dot toggle, and we're going to say active. Okay, like so. So basically, this is a weird. I don't know if I think it must exist in other coding languages, but this inside of JavaScript means whatever this script is attached to, it's going to apply it to. So in this case, this is an abbreviation because it's attaching to this. This is an abbreviation for just saying account button. So this means account button in this case, but it's wherever that's what this is. It's just like a weird thing. And then class list is just the list of things of classes. And then we're just going to turn it on or off depending on. And the one we want to turn on or off is basically active. So what that means is that if we click on it, so this is for the button, it's going to add to the button the active class. Or if it's already active, we click on it, it's going to take away the active class. So it's basically what it's doing is it's going to write active for us, but through code. That's what that's doing. It's turning active on and off. So that way when we click on it, right now it's orange. When we click on it, it'll turn white and it'll stay white while it's open. But if you click on it again, it will turn back to orange and collapse the thing. So that's what that part's doing. All right. Again, and I don't like, how do you know to write all this, right? I don't either. So a lot of times what I do is I just look up something like, oh, how do you do whatever? And then I will look up, but I do understand what it's saying. So this, again, means this object, and then this is like a sub object, and this is a sub object of that. And then, this, right? So, okay. So then after that, we're going to make a variable called the ACC panel. And that will be equal to this dot next element. Oops, I had Control S, I meant Shift S. Sibling. I can spell next element sibling. And then what we're gonna do. So what we're doing is we're inside of a variable that we're gonna call account panel, just like the other one is. We're doing this. So again, this is representing what this is being attached to, because this is all inside of this event listener right now. So again, this is just an abbreviation for this, okay? This is an abbreviation for this. And then it's saying next element sibling. So what's the next element sibling after this button? It's the panel. So that's how we're getting to this div element. Okay. It's best to do it that way, because if I did accordion panel, I would get all of them again. Right? Now, what I could have done is up here where we stored get elements by class name, I could also do another one of these and look for accordion panel. And then down here, when I did the stuff, I would just do accordion panel right here with the same I number, so it would match up exactly the same. But there's always a chance that it could be slightly off. This way, it just grabs the next thing. But it does mean that you have to have this directly after the accordion panel or the accordion button. Otherwise, it's going to grab whatever comes after this. So, but that's, but this is why reading the code is helpful. And all we're going to do now is we're going to take that panel and we're just going to say if it's off, turn it on, and if it's on, turn it off, just like we did with the other thing. So we're going to say if the ACC, not but panel, okay, if that dot style dot display is equal to quotes block, then it's gonna go like, yeah, we'll leave it like that. Then you're gonna take the ACC panel dot style dot display, that's right, display, and make it equal to none, like that. And you can probably guess what we're gonna do for the else. Else, oh man, stupid thing. Oh, I guess I didn't do that there. Come on. Trying to make it a little bit more abbreviated, so it's not easier to read, but it'll be easier it'll be more concise. And then what we're going to do is do ACC panel dot style dot display, and we're going to set that equal to block, like that. And then I'm just going to bring this up here. And then what we need to do is, again, like I said, this function is basically inside of this event listener. And then, let's see. What should that look like? Boom, boom. That's fine. Okay. And then, yeah. And then this, we're going to bring this up here just because it's kind of got a lot here. Like that. And that should be good. So basically, if it's on, turn it off. And if it's, or otherwise, it would be off. So, right, on or off. And if it's off, turn it on. That's what it's going to do. Okay, so this is just making it so it turns it light or not light when we click on it. And then we just say the panel that comes after the button, just turn whatever one that is on or off, depending. Okay, so we save this, and that should be good. I just tested this, and then when I went here, I looked and I hit Control R, and I was like, great, it works. But it's not clicking on. And then I went back here, and I noticed I forgot a thing here. So let's try that. See, 1 asterisk. That's all it takes. I don't know if this is going to fix it or not. I'm hoping it will. Still didn't fix it. Okay. So now we got to look and see what we might have done that was an error. So I will probably tell you guys this at times. There are no smart errors. There's only dumb ones. And what I mean by that is that you're not going to do anything. It's like, oh, it's because I put this over here. And it's usually like a silly misspelling, or you forget a semicolon or something. And I legit just spent like probably 5-10 minutes trying to figure this out. I didn't put an A in here. Like, that's, yeah. So now if I click on it, you can see now it works. But it took me a while to figure that out, a little longer than it should have. And so I just want you guys to be aware that we all do it for some reason. So maybe you even noticed it. You're like, oh, you forgot the whatever. That's why it wasn't working. Anyway, but so now that is working and we're good. And so you can just go ahead and go to the next slide.